Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the BimTube podcast. My name is Stephen, and today I've got Cristina Savian with me. So welcome, Christina.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, thanks for spending the time with me today. So we've known each other for several years. I can't recall how many, but quite a few, at least a decade, I'd say.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
yes, as I do with all our podcast guests, is just ask you if you don't mind to introduce yourself. And very importantly, I think for people new to these sectors, whether it's digital or architecture, engineering, construction, or whatever we talk about in a broader sense, if you just give a quick overview of your career path, that'd be really helpful as well. So over to you, Christina.
Sure. Great. Thank you for having me here, Steve. Yes, I will say probably known each other for about 10 years. So yes, I'm Cristina Savian. Actually, I was born in Italy. So you might pick up that from my accent. But yeah, I spent more than 13 years in London. So yes. And yes, I was in Australia also for the last few years, and yeah, currently relocated to Dubai. So as you can see, I have a bit of an international outlook to the industry. So in terms of when I started, yeah, don't laugh. I started in 1998. Okay, so I know I've been around for a long time, and I know most of the people say it's not possible, but I look a lot younger. Yeah, than most people think. So I started. So in Italy, you do study, the course like it's both land surveying and building surveying, and then you decide what you really want to get, into like your career. Building wasn't really for me, so I basically went for land surveying immediately. So I started working. Yeah, it was September 1998. Yeah, and I started working for a big design firm that was designing one of the big freeways in north of Italy. And yes, after that, I went to work for one of the local authorities um, in my hometown, looking after traffic management and parking. And then the time I started studying in the evening, doing my degree, and I got scholarship to get to London. Well, actually, it was everywhere in Europe, and I decided that London was going to do the job for me for a few months. Those 3 months ended up being 13 years. So yeah, once I arrived in 2005, I actually never left. I finished my degree by jumping on a plane and studying on MSN Messenger with my friends. I mean, can you believe that? And yes, I then did my MSc in civil engineering at Imperial. And then last one was my MBA at Cambridge University. In London, I started working for one of the local authorities, Greenwich Council, same like traffic management and parking, which, there wasn't really just the language from Italian to English. It was the fact that, driving on the other side in England. So, it was quite challenging. And this really is when I start kind of shifting to technologies. I always been innovation, I would say, advocate. I was always the annoying person. Oh, but this, in the room to say, oh, there is must be a better way to do things, which basically led me to start designing a fully integrated GIS system with AutoCAD Map 3D. And what happened? Autodesk discovered this about my implementation in local authorities with no budget whatsoever, fully live integrated. It was 2010 back then. It was like 2009. It was like groundbreaking. So I became one of the Autodesk case studies. What happened then? I worked actually for the London Olympics. I was a transport manager for Greenwich Park venue for looking after all the traffic management and parking outside there. And just to give you, I know you're very familiar with, Greenwich, but, we're talking about the same operation, the size of the entire Olympic Park. just because you are in the middle, obviously, of the city. So after that amazing experience, I said, what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And I decided to, this time, Autodesk go back to me and kind of go headhunted. So I was headhunted to Autodesk, looking after the North Europe for the geospatial solution in pre-sales. So I started traveling pretty much every week, and I got to know a lot of the Nordics and a lot of like Ireland. Traveled a lot in UK, Denmark, Belgium, Netherlands. I just done it all really. So it was like very, very fun. And then after that, then I moved to the big, manage the big accounts for the company. And yes, I was finishing my MBA at the time, and I decided that's it 5 years ago. So I started my own business, and now I mostly focus on digital twins. Yes, which also led me to obviously relocate to Australia and now in Dubai. But yes, I'm just a management consultant, so I use my experience in the industry to help business to improve. In this case, a lot about aligning into this new digital twin opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Christina. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I can't believe the year that you started your career. So
Right.
yeah, okay. But okay, well, amazing. So you've had, I mean, it's fascinating all the different domains and sectors that you've worked across. Obviously GIS and BIM, or whatever we want to call it now, digital construction, digital engineering. I think is there a common thread? This may be self-evident for us, but again, for the benefit of people watching or listening, what do you think is one of the common themes across your career, if you can find one, or what's, without putting words in your mouth, I won't, but what's one of the common elements you've had to focus on in all your roles, or have they been that different? There isn't a common theme.
I wouldn't say. I don't know. Maybe from the outside you can see a common, theme, but the only thing that I think it was always been, for me is what's the next thing, right? And it's kind of like if there is one thing I learned in my, about myself is that whereas there is a lot of people that are very uncomfortable with the unknown, I'm actually very comfortable with the unknown. I'm actually really happy being the one who drives the story. And I think is also what led me to, I remember when, over a time, 15 years ago, when the entire, BIM, discussion, I was obviously in London and how everything was driven. And then when I start kind of seeing the hype around digital twins, I kind of was like, no, I'm not going to let that happen again. I don't want to see the industry taking the wrong way and miss, it's like always, right? There's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of buzz, a lot of people try to get the opportunity. And I was like, no. I actually genuinely believe that, the digital twin is just, a normal technology advantage, advancement than what, we can, what we had before. We can do more with what we have now. And the digital twin, yes, actually, it's just, it's one of the biggest opportunities that probably we have right now in improving the industry. And then is when I kind of start sharing my knowledge, sharing my understanding, and being very thought-provocative about it. And I don't know, the more I talked about it, the more people came to me asking for, my insights. And so, yeah, in the last 3 years, wherever you see me, it's I now chair all the digital twin conferences around the world. I made the top list of digital experts worldwide for like 3 years in a row now. Still don't know how long it's going to carry on, but I think certainly I see the industry kind of like softening up. And if there is one softening up, I think just maturing. A year and a half ago here in Dubai, I think was probably the most shocking, conference I ever been, where they were literally selling unicorn, right? And me being me, I stepped out of the room. I went to the organizer and I was like, can we say bad words here? But I say something like, who put this? together, yeah, because they're selling something that doesn't exist, yeah, and it's very, very risky. And I've seen this happening years and years ago with BIM, and I'm sorry, but I just can't see this, I can't witness, this again. We're not really doing each other a favor. And me being me, and all of this, it's I think you need to stand for what you believe in. And if there is one thing that I really want, is bring clarity to the industry. But yeah, 18 months later, honestly, now the latest conference, it was like, oh dear, month or so ago here in Dubai. Amazing. I mean, you can really see the maturity in only a couple of years, on how everything is now no longer about this unicorn vision of what a digital twin can do, for us, but it's all about the data, the life cycle information management. It's all about focusing on what really brings the return of investment, and it's not just any longer about the pretty picture. They don't get me wrong, it's not that the visualization is not important, but we're finally focusing on what is more important, which is what drives, at the end of the day, like improvement, asset improvement. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, so my opinion on your sort of career thread would be, as you've articulated there already, but just to summarize, it's definitely about the innovation side of it. I know you used that word already, but definitely, I mean, that's really clear, and it's wherever you find the innovation, like, and the other thing, I don't know if you mentioned in your introduction, I don't think you did, you also write for articles as well, right? So definitely the communication side, I know that's the point you were making there, but
I didn't know I could write, in English. This is the thing. If you had asked me years ago that I was going to become one of these like big thought leaders in the industry, I don't think I will ever believe you. And the reality is, I now have all the major, honestly, without giving it, all the major technology companies, apart from my ex-employer, commissioning me piece of the leadership pieces. Wherever is digital, innovation, wherever is digital twins, where the market is going, where is the opportunity on, I mean, how do we drive, sustainable, we move more like towards a sustainable world. It's yes, I don't know if it's, at the same time, it's kind of like I don't know how I got to where I got now, but then at the same time, I'm also the results of the technology advancement, because let's be honest, I couldn't do what I do without tools like Grammarly, or some of these new AI tools that really help you to shape your sentence, your communication better, and kind of check your grammar and everything. I couldn't have done this years ago. But one of the most important thing is, I certainly realized that as long as you have an opinion, you can share whatever opinion you can, you have. And I don't know, I just decided, honestly, I generally just decided to be myself and to share what I think about everything. And obviously it's a luxury I have, because I run my own business. So, I don't have to comply with any one brands. And at the same time, I just say, I hope I get attracted, and I attract the people that just kind of have the same way of thinking, had enough of this like talking, and just not really thinking about that. This is one of, construction is one of the most important industry in our society. We are also ourselves the users of this industry. And so tell me exactly how we ended up with the least innovative industry, and with the little, the lowest profit margin in history. How is that possible? How did we get here? And the reality is, yes, we go here because of our life cycle. And let's be honest, we're never really going to change the life cycle, and never really going to change the way we procure us building into infrastructure. But what we can change is We can leverage the technology advancements to bring us together, to bring the life cycle together, to leverage and think about long term, not just whatever, what about fulfilling my contracts, right? So we can do a lot more. And all I want to do is help to bring innovation, help to bring whatever is available there, into, the world, wherever is working with the big design firms, wherever is being, facility management or the big technology companies that really find it really, really challenging. They might have amazing technology, amazing, okay? I mean, what comes out of China right now, it's like, mind-blowing. However, challenging to applying to anything, than what we actually do everywhere in the world. So
Yeah.
it's not just about the technology being available, it's about the implementation, it's about us accepting that there is another way of doing things, it's us changing our way of doing things. It's absolutely normal to use our phone all day long, right? And every day, but still it's not enough, our in our everyday construction world. It's still too analog to really push our industry towards where it should be.
Yeah, but it's a good point you say, and you talked about technology as being a tool as well. You said that a moment ago, and I picked up on that because there's a lot of people, and your example about how the conferences have changed where you are now, that have been obsessed with the technology for the technology's sake. I mean, that's kind of the essence of the whole point of this podcast, right? I mean, it is exciting. I mean, I'm a fellow of the British Computer Society, so it's not that I don't like technology, but they're tools, like you've been expressing. It's what you do with the tools or the solutions, and how you improve, like you've been saying, like a business process. It's what do you think, again, for the benefit of people that maybe are new to this topic, what haven't we still improved enough at this point? Maybe just one or two sort of summary points, whether it's AEC, architecture, engineering or construction, or the asset management side. What do you think we still need to tackle?
The biggest obstacle to
Yeah,
innovation
again, I don't want to put words in my mouth. So what theme? So let's say we had an infinite budget. Yeah, we had infinite budget, and we're working at either an industry or a government level. What would we tackle? It might not be the technology interoperability. It might be an aspect that you've been alluding to. But where do you think we're still not quite there? What facet?
I think our biggest obstacle is the people side. And I know we've been discussing this and people have been talking about this, but our skill set and matters. So if we don't upskill ourselves, we will never get there. And we need more skilled people, which means we need to attract new talent that stop going and working for these big technology companies. And they can't wait, to work for there, but actually work for one of the most important industry in our societies. But at the same time, we will never really attract them unless we really change our way of working, because let's be honest, the young people want to have a cool, daily life, working life, and going back to pen and paper, like exactly what they probably wish to do. So we definitely do a bit better in terms of upskilling ourselves, upskilling the industry, and attract new talent. But the biggest obstacle I see every day is our risk management in the industry, and the fact that the industry is risk adverse. So every single time, and probably people coming out, not from the industry, they say, but there is this new material, these new things, new way of building. And I was like, yeah, okay, which means it probably is going to take 10, 15 years before we accept it. Why? Because we don't bring in innovation, because we don't know the impact in the long term, and it doesn't really adhere with our manuals and the way we're supposed to design things and build things. So we are uncomfortable with what we don't know, which means we keep doing what we are doing, which also means we don't really innovate. So the risk management in the industry is the biggest challenge, because we can't implement new things unless they're in the contract, but the contract are written in the old-fashioned way because we have the evidence of the consequence of that, right? It's challenging. It's challenging still these days. Hardly anyone knows how to add digital requirements into the contracts. And even when they add them for free. Like literally, oh yeah, it's just another way. It was like, no, it's not the other way. Yes, in the long term it can save, but you also. And then so you think about all the buildings, that they are here in Dubai, and so much built. How much is this digital? Probably a good quantity. Are they really leveraging that? I'm sorry. You know what? The maximum digital things I've seen. So I live in a big tower, is 83, floors. So it's like very, very big tower. Have an amazing app to manage, anything that it's broken. But at the end of the day, I still have a very sketchy map of this floor, where actually it would have been very nice if I actually had a detailed plan of this, which I'm sure there is one. The ability to measure things, so I know my furniture, how they're going to fit. And also very, very simple things about, so I went to the management office, and someone walked in and said, I'm moving out, and I've broken one piece of the freezer. So all I need is, can you just give me the manufacturing, name and, a number and everything, so I can buy the replacement, before I leave. Do you think it's an easy information to find? Absolutely not. Like simple things that obviously come out with, this digital record. Well, this record was definitely digital at some point, but it was obviously pulled over as being important. Think about what it would have meant to actually have the information. The fact that you can order pieces of, the apartment and the maintenance, the long term, but also think about someone could actually have a business just selling these pieces, right? But all of this data is not linked. This morning, I live in very fancy Fendi apartment, so these are kind of like have some certain standards, let's put it that way. And I opened the door, and my door came off. Simple as that. And interesting enough, it can only be fixed, because otherwise it's going to look different. Because apparently there is no other way to get the same one. So can understand is like, think about, you really think on every day how much of this opportunity could have actually brought open up, like a new business, a new data business. Yes, they can see, if I I live on in a Damak building, so Damak has building another 5 towers just here, in front. Think about how much will I know about the insights on what gets broken in every single of my building. So I know in the long term what actually brings more value and what doesn't, what breaks, what doesn't break. I can link to, my when there have a maintenance I want to do on it, how much I can save. So no, all of this is manual. All of this information on how many times it gets broken, everything is a WhatsApp or is an email. Drives me, honestly, it's just like there is so much opportunity, nothing. And the challenge is, even if probably you provide this, there is no way you can probably find people with those skills, because, and to be honest, people that maintain these buildings most of the time don't hardly speak English. Sometimes it's very difficult to communicate with them, right? Because obviously it's built on, cheap labor. So, which goes back again, it's not about the technology not being available, it's about the people. But how much money are we losing just because we're not upskilling the people, we're not training the people? So why are we not investing? Why are we investing in having amazing people? And I really had a long discussion. I'm sorry to bring, but probably not. I don't have many women, but I was fascinated because yesterday I went to do my nails, and the lady told me, how much training she gets to, from the manufacturer to learn how to do the nails perfect. To be honest, they're like one of the best I've had, right? Why are we not doing the same for construction? Why are we not training our people to be the best at their job, the best at managing our buildings, the best, we want to keep building, we want to keep selling, we want to keep, building those amazing spaces. And even when now these days technology is available, we're not leveraging it. And it's practice, it's about people, it's about, I don't know. Oh, lots of obstacles.
It's so thank you for that. I mean, example about the FM, about the nails, but also about the facilities management and maintenance. I mean, obviously you're posing these things rhetorically, but just to respond, I think is it not the challenge that we have so many, not we, someone somewhere would, it's so diffused, the benefits are seemingly diffused, so they're not centralized. I know I've made this comment before, if people have watched any of these things before. I've had it easier in my career because it's heavy infrastructure like railways, electrical distribution, right? The failure modes, you talked about risk. So just looping back to risk, is it because the risks in not doing what you've been suggesting are not immediate enough, apparent enough, and not seemingly impactful enough? Is it we haven't had a good enough story, do you think?
I don't know. Or maybe I think sometimes is, think about all the different layers, right? I'm the owner of the company. I just have spreadsheets and I don't really get involved in operations, right? So I think there is our industry is so breakdown and have so many layers and so many stakeholders on wherever you are in design, construction, facility management. They keeping the communication, it's challenging, right? There is no the direct benefit that you can see. And I'm sorry for making this analogy, but sometimes I really like it also to be controversial, right? And to actually bring the point. The manufacturer of nail polish has a massive interest to train the best of the best, because they're not going to sell another manufacturer, they're actually going to sell theirs, right? So whereas our layers of management, especially on big, they're just people just manage portfolios, and then you have facility managers that are just very good at managing buildings because they've been doing this for a long time, and because they're just moving from one building to another, and they can keep doing everything on practice. Did they actually ever sat down and said, well, instead of using emails, I can actually have all of my login systems? So I have no idea why in a tower with 83 floors this doesn't happen. It's mind-blowing, right? So yes, I have an app, but the app is pretty much useless because it only has static informations, and everything else is whatever, if you have problems or whatever. But the everyday maintenance, they actually can bring a lot of analytics and everything. It wouldn't really be that difficult to track it because you can manage it, right? And you can derive a lot. And I have no idea why nobody has sold it to them, to the big people. And I think also being in this industry, also what happens, and I work with a lot of, I work with a lot of big companies, but I do work a lot with startups. And they tend to be the ones that build the most amazing product. They actually realize they have to sell it. And they're like, oh, it's difficult to sell it. And they don't really realize how it's about not selling how many features you have, but it's selling the value that what you have. And I think probably there is a lot of solutions out there. They are just not talking to the right, they don't have access to the right management level to sell this on a value based. Yeah. So I just say, actually, I think I can save you X amount every single month just by tracking these issues, categorizing them. Yes, we're not going to be an amazing job this month. next month or everything. But think about the long term, because you want to use the same manufacturer from a different building, and this is slightly different. I think the big towers, because you tend to have the builder, right, managing these buildings for the asset owner, managing this building for a very, very, very long time. This doesn't happen everywhere, right? So but for them, on a massive scale, surely they have the money to invest and trying to do better. In the same way, someone sold to them that they should have an app, right, for the residents. I still don't know to track what, but what I'm saying is, probably the people that have the solution, they already have the solution. They're just not talking to the right people. They're not talking on a value based, to sell to them what they could get out of it. So yeah, I have no idea how we solve the solution, but I'm trying to do my best every day, wherever I work with the big companies and wherever I work with, the startup bringing, new tech into construction. At the end of the day, apart keep sharing our challenges, keep sharing what we should do, what else can we do? I mean,
Yeah, it's a really good point. You're naturally touching on some of the topics I was going to introduce, hence why I'm not interjecting. There's absolutely no need to. So one of the things I was going to ask you, but I mean, I'd suggest you've already addressed this point in what you were just saying, is about the communication of not being. It's exactly what you just said about maybe people can't communicate the value or they've had challenge. Of course, you have an MBA, so again, the signs are there that you're focused on business. I mean, do you see what I mean? It's like your progression is, well, actually, you can communicate the business value by definition. You said you've worked with startups. So I think that, I mean, I would say that's a big ask for a lot of people. So whether they're engineers or construction professionals or technologists, if they don't necessarily have your background or my focus, not necessarily my background.
I hire a lot of people that not necessarily have my background, because it's true, you don't have a lot of people that come from the industry and went through and kind of move and transition to the business side, or you might have it, but they still have the very, very strong like engineering knowledge. But I, without giving names, I kind of found my now niche market, right? So a lot of the work that I do is return on investment, business cases for digital and whatsoever, how we go to market with this new technology and everything. And the reality is, it's always about translating the engineering element to the business, and making sure a lot of the work I do is linking, basically talk to management, right? How do we talk to management? How do we sell this to management? How do we get them on board? Of course, yes, there is no doubt that my MBA helped me to bridge that gap, right? I understand what the executive wants, and I kind of understand the engineering work. Okay, you might don't find a lot of people with exactly the same background, but you do find a lot of people that know a lot about business, right? So I always say that, actually, I haven't said this yet, but in this podcast, I always, say that we don't have enough business people in the engineering world, because if we had enough business people, we wouldn't be in this situation or, making money, right? So, but then at the same time, it's kind of like we need to learn how to balance the two worlds, the engineering side with the, obviously, investment side. Yes, we love to design and build absolutely everything, but there is a justification for everything. And 100% we need to do better on this. I found my niche market in the sense, I found my own gap in the market, and, for the last 5 years, that's all I do, right? I bridge the two worlds with a lot of different type of, engagements. But don't tell me that a big, massive, asset owner can know how, that doesn't have a roadmap to fix all of these problems, or at least to start, try on this, on a short basis. Because think about how much value you can bring it long term. Yes, it can be a bit challenging, but at the beginning, but it's like anything. It's normal for us to have an app that does absolutely everything. But when it comes to our building, we're still not there. we're still not there with our assets. We should know that road has many trees there are, and how many, to maintain, and and everything, and we can correlate with so much of the other data. We don't. And I'm like, how do we do that? Not in a
Yes.
we still want to bring value. So I think every use case on whatever we do, because at the end of the day, what I'm describing is creating the digital equivalent, right? Or our digital twin of whatever, a building, everything. But the reality is, it's about creating the digital equivalent of all those elements and keep updating them, so you can derive value out of it. You have insights, and you can, make data-driven decisions. So yeah, I do generally believe we can do a lot with our, by creating digital twins of, assets. Just we don't do that enough for some reason.
Yeah, it is definitely, no doubt, the focus of who you or one is talking to, and their. But maybe we should, although I have discussed digital twins on other podcasts, it would be good for you to describe what they are, how you use them. Again, there'll be people, surprisingly, that have maybe never heard of them. So what is a digital twin, and how does it relate to other things like BIM and GIS?
So I'm going to give you one of the, well, I actually cloned many definitions of it. Okay. So because who decides, who should define them or not. And this is the thing, currently the way how we define it, our digital twin, which is our digital equivalent of, a product or asset, in our case, is actually the definition that Michael Breeds, gave, which is, professor at the University of Michigan, but comes from product lifecycle, management. So it comes from a different life cycle. So yes, we're using this concept. The yes can be applied to any industries, as we know, automotive, or everything. When it comes to us, can it really be applied in the same way? No, I really don't believe so. I mean, I've been talking about this, I've been publishing about this for the last 5 years, and I can tell you that no, that's my take. We need to accept that our life cycle is different, and therefore we should define the concept or in the way that suits us. And it suits us because it makes sense, and because it's easy to understand and it's applicable to the entire life cycle. So the way I see it is we can create a digital equivalent of anything, right? So it's easy. We can make it simple. Digital equivalent of our building or of our infrastructure. The digital equivalent, we've been doing that for a very long time. So there is not really anything groundbreaking about that. I think the real technology advancement, which is the whole concept about the difference about digital representation and digital twin, is about having a two-way, synchronization between our built asset, and our digital equivalent. The reality is, yes, can we really make it two ways? Maybe for an automotive and, small, manufacturing, elements, yes, this can be possible. For our buildings, I don't know, our life cycle probably doesn't really accept, this definition. So maybe it's not about this two-way synchronization. Maybe it could only be, at most of the time, one way. But does it bring value one way? Yes, it does bring value one way. And the way I see it is, we talk about, it's not a digital twin unless it doesn't have sensors and this live, synchronizations. Nah, I don't think it suits our construction industry. I think in our life cycle. So I think it's about two elements. It's about having a digital equivalent of some aspects of your building. Not everything, because let's be honest, not everything is important, right? So it's just the digital equivalent of what really you are analyzing at the moment, and having the data and the synchronization of those important information that comes from, one way or two. And the reality is, it's all about the two key elements. It's not the two ways, but it's about the frequency and the fidelity. So I think if you have a digital representation that you assign an exchange of information in terms of fidelity and frequency. So the frequency is how often you update. And let's be honest, if you only need it once a week synchronization is fine. If you need it once a month, it's once a month. If once a year brings value, then the frequency is once a year. The fidelity is about the quality of your data, because of course, and then is what makes you decision. If you need just a laser scan every once a month, or you need the sensors, because actually the data and what you're analyzing you need requires that level of fidelity, which of course is a lot more expensive having live feeds, and then obviously just going on site. But then is when you obviously need to build your business case about what? About use case. So it's not about building a digital twin of something for the sake of it. No, it's about the digital twin for that specific asset for that specific use case. And that's it. So I don't think we're ever going to clarify the big communication in the industry unless we stop talking about digital twin in general, and we actually say, I'm building a digital twin of my building and these elements of the building for this use case: energy reduction, I'm trying to save maintenance costs, I'm trying to save this, this and that. Because all this digital twin will look completely different depending on what output and what you are analyzing. And let's be honest, the majority of the digital twin I'm looking at, and I've been also, writing, business case is only data, doesn't have even have visualization, because neither geometry. How much the geometry of a building changes? Guess what? It doesn't. And I think this is the problem, right? We have all of these, I don't know why, probably because some of the technology companies have too much money and they kind of sold us this vision of the visualization, the geometry of this digital twin. But the reality is no, because all you want is a dashboard. All you want is the digital equivalent that gives you that output, right? And I'll help you to bring the decisions. You don't really make decisions on what it looks like. You make decisions on the data in the same way how you will make decision when, there is this broken, or there is this, changing, or this is, costing too much. We need to, change. It's basically the same hard data that you will change. The only thing is you have a structure, you have organized it, and in a way that is no longer a phone call, is no longer an email, it's automatic, it's automated. And that's really what we should think about when we think about the digital twin. So it's about leveraging the digital data that kind of replicate our asset for those elements that we really want to improve, and it's not about creating our digital representation of everything, because let's be honest, they're just too complex and there are just too many stakeholders looking at different aspects. So it's about creating what really just matters to you. And facility management asks you for the floor number and the door number. It doesn't necessarily wants to see a 3D model. Well, it just says that is, flashing and broken. No, actually what they want is the dashboard where, it kind of alerts that there is something broken, right? So I'm not entirely sure where we took this idea that we should have geometry everywhere, but the reality is we don't. So anyway, so this is my definition, is about leveraging the advancement in technology and doing more, because we can do a lot more, and we should.
Yes, thank you for that. And your points around the frequency, fidelity, I like the way you've expressed them, because obviously there's other more complex terms, but that will confuse people. But I think it's as simple as that, isn't it? And your example of being, it doesn't need to be necessarily real time with sensors.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just reflecting on what you said, because a lot of people think it must be. And I think, well, and maybe there's, just to add something, and maybe I'll ask you, intentionally ask you a leading question. Maybe one thing that's missing, do you think, is our industry guides? Because quite rightly you've said it depends what the asset type is or what the facility is. You know, because building a bus stop is different to a nuclear power station. I always joke about that when I'm doing training.
No,
People
it's
say,
true. It's true.
yeah.
This is the thing. No, I don't think we need more guides. I think we should just stop reading those guides and think that the entire world is about following a guideline. Because I think we're just doing it a bit too much in our industry. We are so used to, we go to the, you know, we get trained, whatever, architects, you know, engineers, we need to follow the manual, and we're only right, we follow the manual. The manual is out of date. You want to work with the latest technology, it's happening now. Tomorrow is going to be, you know, already out of date. So we should change this mindset that we need to wait for a guideline. All we need to think about is, does it bring value? Who cares if you call it digital twin or you call it, you know, BIM? Who cares? It's about the output. It is about the output and what we want to achieve. So I don't know. Is it really going to help if we call it, you know, we have a guideline that clarifies that you don't call it a digital twin before it gets built, and then you call it a digital twin, and the digital twin needs to have these elements? No. I actually go back to its original definition. I'm like, you know what? Has a digital equivalent. Who said it's 3 geometry? Because we said it just because we're so used to building stuff that is what we only think is, you know, is the digital equivalent. Actually, no, a digital equivalent of those processor elements is more important. And it has the two-way synchronization in a way of fidelity and frequency. So as long as I have an assigned a frequency and a fidelity, and it brings value to me because it's balanced on what's the output I want to achieve and how much money I want to invest to achieve those outputs. Because this is the thing, is how many times I've seen, oh, we try to build this digital, you know, twin of X. Yeah, it costs us more than the asset itself. Of course, because it costs you more. Because you're not really trying to understand what you really want to achieve. You're trying to build something for the sake of it. And it's like, why? You know, if we start you know, implementing and applying the concept actually where, well, I want a digital equivalent. Why? Because it's easier to actually manage, you know, than an analog way, and trying to derive those insights that help me to do better with my asset, improve my asset. At the end of the day, it's all about improving what you have. If you don't want to improve anything, why would you build, right? A digital twin. And you know, the use cases can be varied. I mean, it can be as, yes, you're using a form of digital twin because you do have a digital representation of your asset even before the asset is, you know, it's sold, because you want to drive, you know, sales. And of course, you know, we can do a lot more. Yes, of course. But then, you know, that 3D visualization is probably just a static, you know, visualization, and it ends there, right? Where there is a lot more different digital elements that actually we carry out, and we can carry out for the, you know, life cycle. We're talking hundreds of years, and this is the thing. And going back to what, you know, you said earlier, on, oh, there is so much focus on the type of technology. So I was invited to a bid in Saudi a few years ago, okay? And the requirement is, we want to create, oh, well, we think we want to create a digital twin, but we're not sure we want to create a digital twin. And by the way, we're not sure what technology you want to use and everything. And the reality is, you don't have to select the technology, because it's all about, you don't know what is going to be available in 10, 50 years, 100 years, right? So it's about trying to answer the question is, based on our knowledge and understanding on managing these type of assets, what are the most important aspects? Okay, great. Can I digitize them? Can I make sure they always get up to date? And who cares the system that we're using now? Because let's be honest, in 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years, we're going to change it, right? Because technology advances. So it's a bit like us trying to open a Word document or Excel file from the 90s, right? the first, whatever. What was the earliest version? Anyway, we kind of had. But this is the thing, right? Is us trying to open a file and trying to digest structured information for a long time ago. And the reality is that's all we have to focus on. We don't have to focus on, oh, this digital twin solution is better than this digital twin solution, because we're working, this is a new field. It's not something that we've been doing for hundreds of years, and we have so much, evidence. We don't have the evidence. We're building the evidence as we go along. So let's stop this mindset of, the industry. Do you want to leverage digital? Great. Do you want to leverage digital engineering, digital technology? Fine. Then stop thinking about finding this evidence, try to build, thinking about what you want in the future, and trying to learn from what you are doing now to do better tomorrow. But it's, as you can see, it's a very, very different mindset. It's not about finding the answer in a manual. It's about finding your own answers and keep improving on what you're doing.
Yeah, it's the process itself. I guess. So I completely agree with everything you've said. You're touching on open standards and data, keeping pervasive data and resilience, which has a risk. I guess when I was asking about guides, and I agree there are lots of guides, there are lots of standards.
Who reads them?
Well, I mean, I'll be careful what I say. I remember I teach some standards, but I guess, but the standards I teach, they're a framework, right? So I guess that's a different approach. But sorry, just let me ask. When I meant guide, what I meant was for a specific asset. So, for example, so you're a world-class consultant here. You can guide your clients through it. There is confidence with people working with you. You would be confident. I would be confident on certain aspects, but the challenge is people are not confident. So maybe guide was the wrong word. So, for example, someone building a railway bridge, or the example you give in FM, you've been going back to the FM example. How do we give that confidence to someone? Because there's all these different facets. Your last point there was about, well, hang on, don't get the wrong format because it might not be backward compatible. That's another thing that people need to worry about. So how do we educate people then? How do we give them confidence to do what you're saying? How do we do that?
This is the thing. It's like, do you think it's about confidence? No, they're not looking for confidence. All they're looking is the evidence, because they're used to seeing evidence. And the order looking is how to manage the risk on using something they never used before. So we're going back to the challenge is about risk management, is about accepting that you need to get a leap of faith in the future and trying to do new things. And yes, you might get them wrong, but how about if you get that right? And it's the people come to me because probably I've been failing more than others, because I've been doing this, longer. And so sometimes they come to me and I'm like, well, I got that right, I got that wrong, I got that right, I got that wrong, well, certainly you have more experience than us, right? And this is the thing, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know, I have all the answers, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to implement and to use the knowledge I have on this. And, and this is the thing. We are going back to evidence-based. We're going to back where you, instead of assigning the task to someone who never done it before, you give it to someone, everything, right? But then at the same time is we all need to kind of push towards that, because we can all learn every day. We can all push ourselves to out of our comfort zone and trying to improve something every single day to do better. So, going back to your example, how do you, well, I did have a big infrastructure coming to me and just say, okay, so I don't know. I was like, well, okay. So if you're looking for evidence, or you're looking for something that was just done and you want this evidence and whatever, okay, fine. Sorry. Find and look for. I don't know anyone. I wish I knew, but I can just give, I will definitely refer you to you. Or we can just accept that we're people that try to do a better job, and we all sit down and trying to figure it out together. So that's pretty much what I do all the time. I just say it's a new field. We are looking for something that was written already and gave you the confidence, probably you're not going to find it. And then I'm like, even if you find it, when you find it's too late. Because once you find it, a lot of other people already leveraged, and you lose the competitive advantage in the first place. So it's about it's like any company, and I think all our companies should construction, they should always allocate a part, aside to bringing innovation, improving processes, and improving the way they're working, they're building stuff. Yes, it's not justifiable for everything, especially with profit margin is very, very low. But let's be honest, we waste so much money on stuff that doesn't really matter, right? So how about allocating just about to those elements that is about really improving the big stuff, right? Where you can really immediately see the difference rather than small ones. I always say, it's like, oh, it's amazing why we have these small flats, in Italy, me and my sisters, in these very, very tiny buildings. I was like, oh, everyone makes fun of me, and it's like, oh, so don't you have the digital copy? And I was like, why would I have one? Why would I invest the time, right? It does not really make sense, because this is the thing. There is no return on investment of that, right? But when you talk about portfolio, when you talk about big stuff, when you're talking about building with 83 floors, it's like, this is where, of course, there is evidence, because how much money you're wasting every single day not having access to that information. So it's easily justifiable. But yes, so I don't know if it's the answer you wanted.
No, it's no. Again, it is completely on the money, because I think you were talking about the commercial advantage and value, and and sort of follow the value in the example you gave there. Why do it if there's no value? I'm completely with you. Yeah. I mean, even if people have infinite budget, which of course they don't, but how are you going to spend it? Where's the value? Do you see what I mean? Like what? So I completely agree with you. I think my only observation would be, again, for people perhaps new to these topics, is that it's not always commercial. So that, I think that's one of the challenges. I mean, maybe you've got reflections on this around the government. Maybe we need changes in governance, and I mean government governance, to actually drive what we're talking about. I know we've been close to the initiatives in the United Kingdom. There'll be people obviously not familiar with them, but that's central government led. Have you got anything about that? Because ultimately what you're talking about is portfolio. Well, that's often, not always, but that's often a government level.
It
So,
can be.
and a government
Let's talk
isn't
about
in there to
government.
make profit. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, let's talk about government. Let's talk about how much government data, how much government assets we could actually improve and reduce our taxes. Yeah, let's be honest, I still, obviously, my business in UK, my taxes here, in the UK, it's like massive this year, right? Which is good, means I did well. But then at the same time, it's like, where is it going, all of this money, right? And of course, I want to do a lot better. But this is the challenge. So I looked at the UK, safety bill, right? And apparently now, because of, as we know, the Grenfell Tower, and we need to do better with what we got, and and everything. So now we're gonna keep digital records, because so there's what it says. We are gonna keep digital records on what we have. Okay. How is it actually working? Because what I see, and as you know, we all know people in the inside always working in the details of that. The reality is, it's nothing. It's just a repository where it's just a big tick box. Yes, it's digital. Yes, digital means a PDF uploaded. That's it. That's digital for the government. Instead of actually leveraging the digital data that is already produced, that actually could be published and could be, and actually asking for those apps. No, we ask for PDFs. We're going to have probably this stage gate system where that's it. You published, oh yeah, instead of presenting these documents, you submitted them digitally. And before, they were already digital, but they were an email, it gets lost. Now we're going to build this system so it actually says that we have all of these records. Is they really bringing value? I'm sorry. I think, and I know the people that got involved. I know the people that were called to write, but the law is too difficult. Why it's too difficult? Because probably whoever was in charge, whatever was they have to build, that had to be done before they were going to get in elections. So had to be done in the short term. So as always, we are looking for short term, not looking for long-term goal. And this is the thing. Our assets are long-term. Unless we accept that we need to think long-term value, not short-term value, we're never really going to fix this.
Yeah, and your example there, we'll have to wrap it up shortly. I've almost had all my time with you, but your example there is absolutely perfect as far as talking about digital can mean and does mean different things. Digitalizing a document, scanning a document, clearly the implication we're talking about data models and digital data. And then your examples about dashboards early on in the conversation, you need digital data. Again, that's a natural, obvious thing for us, but I think that a lot of people don't get it. Maybe that's where some of the upskilling needs to be done. Do you think the difference between data?
It's about the upskilling. It's about trying to understand what is actually possible, and we can do so much more these days than a PDF. I mean, really, this is what we're gonna do. So basically, instead of managing emails, we're just gonna manage it on this system, right? Is that really our solution? No, we should do about a lot better. We should submit the records in a way that can be digested in the long term and can be really leveraged in the long term and analyzed in the long term. No, we can't analyze a PDF. It's a fact. I mean, even with the best systems, yes, you really think, I don't know. So I worked for a while, years ago on this digital building logbook for the European, Commission. So they commissioned this, research, and now is on the proof of concept. Got approached by who got awarded these fundings to, develop this digital building logbook. But basically, it's just database of our building stock at European level. Okay, so we're not really talking about country level. We're talking about European level. And this is the thing. Is like we can do it. Certainly, it's not difficult. At the end of the day, we all have digital data. It's about deciding what it's called, things, what is the meaning. We already have all this data. It already exists. Whatever you put in a submitting a planning application for absolutely anything, you can just submit the digital data. But still, we're not doing that. All we're doing is submitting the document digitally. But it's still a document and it's still static. I mean, it doesn't really bring much, to it. Yeah. And this is the thing. It's yes, it's a lot to do about the upskilling. It's a lot to do about educating on what is possible. So yeah, I know, we keep bumping into each other at every single conference, right? So
yes,
it's about
we're there.
What we're doing. Yeah.
I think just briefly, because I'll need to wrap up. I've had my time with you, but just very briefly, what do you think at a government level? I know you've articulated there, but just to summarize, what at a government level could governments do? Just as a list of a few things. I know you've talked about upskilling,
bigger,
but
think about bigger. There is so many experts, worldwide on any field. It's about going beyond, leveraging the expertise and bring different type of people at the same table. I think what is happening is we trust who helped us up to yesterday, and then we keep hiring the same, and without giving that it's the detail. I know that's often that's what happens, right? You keep going to hiring the same people because they trusted you, and that's what you want to do. And you need to bring different mindsets, different people that do different things and think differently. Because especially when there are new fields, the book is not written yet. It's about us writing a page every single day.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And so thank you so much for your time and your insights, sharing all your thoughts. And just again, for the benefit of people listening or watching, do you recommend any particular websites or online resources? I know there's hundreds, but maybe the top few.
You can follow me on LinkedIn. I always share a lot of things. and all my podcasts, lectures, and everything is they're either on my b-website, b-wise website.com, or CristinaSavian.com. So you can find a lot there. You can follow me on LinkedIn. And the reality is, wherever is written, it's already out of date. So I'm sorry, but I can't really recommend anything particular. I think it's about follow the people. Now these days, with social media, we can follow a lot of really big thought leaders and experts in the field. Follow who you think, is trying to figure it out, because there is a lot of knowledge shared. It's about you going out there and say, has anyone figured out how to do this? And you will find that, yes, you can find the answers to your challenge, and you can either do that now or wait for about 5-6 years before it gets published. Up to you when you want to do that.
Great. Thank you. So follow people, get involved. So thank you so much, Cristina Savian. Thank you for your time again. And
It's been a pleasure. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure I'll see you in person at an event soon. So thank you.